You know, anime today is almost guaranteed to have a second season, but what about the ones who don't get that? Should you watch them? Do they deserve a second season? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this first episode of One Season Runs. Our first is going to be Charlotte.
No peace, OD. Feel like overdosing, low-key. I've been looking for signs, but all I can find is a sign of the time.
Alright, so this is going to be the first episode of One Season Runs. And yeah, this is going to be the first episode because it's a anime that I very much enjoyed, and it only has one season. I'm going to do other shows as well. I got a lot of suggestions from people and things like that. But I'm going to kind of, when I pick a show, I'm going to try to pick kind of older shows, at least 2 years. I might do a newer show here or there, but I'm going to try to stick to kind of older shows. Maybe not like 2 years old, but at least a year old, right? So yeah, first we're going to talk about Charlotte. So what is Charlotte? Well, it's an anime made by PA Works, I believe so. And it's actually an anime original. So you might be asking, like, what does that mean? Well, it means it has no kind of source material, right? Everything that's in the anime and the anime itself is original. So there's no manga and there's no light novel. So that's kind of a reason why it only has one season. There's no source material to kind of fund or to promote. Because if you don't know, anime is actually created to promote the source material. So if you see an anime today and it's based off a manga or a light novel, it's usually only created just to promote those products. So if people watch the anime, they want to watch more, but the next season isn't going to come out for like a year or two, so the person might go and buy the manga or light novel. That's the main purpose of anime. So that's kind of what makes it hard for Charlotte to get a second season, since it has nothing to promote. I believe when Charlotte came out, it was pretty popular, but I guess not a lot of people know about it. But I would say that Charlotte is a very, very great anime. I think people who watch this video should go and watch it if you haven't. It's one of those 9 out of 10s. Pretty good anime, but it only lacks one season. So let's discuss the kind of let's discuss over the kind of what's it about, right? So there's gonna be some spoilers in this, so I'm gonna keep it kind of short, or there's gonna be spoilers near the end. So the kind of premise of the show Charlotte is that it's about this person named Yu, and he has the ability to basically control other people's bodies, but the catch to it is that whenever he goes and takes over someone's body, that his own body becomes limp and falls to the ground. So it's as if he like jumped into someone else's body, and it's kind of like that. So he uses this to his advantage, right? He uses it to cheat in school, get the best grades, go to the best high school, and try to get the prettiest girl in school to fall in love with him. So it's like typical things that most people would do if given the opportunity. They would try to, use their powers, or I guess some people would at first do it selfishly, especially something like his, where it's controlling other people's bodies. Yeah. So he eventually gets discovered by the main cast, which is what you see on screen, and basically they tell him that you need to join and go to our school and join the student council there. And the reason why is that there are groups in the world that are looking for people like you, like the character you, not the audience. But basically what the premise is that there was this meteor that crashed into Earth, I believe, and it spread this virus or something like that, and it gives adolescents superpowers, but usually these superpowers have some sort of drawback. So yeah, and these kind of groups around the world, these secret government, or not government, but these secret groups are trying to exploit those children. And yeah, so you basically joins the student council, and they go around the city basically getting other people like him to go to the school so they'll be safe. So after this I'll go into spoilers, right? So if you haven't seen the series, go watch it. If you have, you can stick around. So at this point, if I was watching this, I'll be like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I don't see it getting a second season, right? It's just until his sister actually unlocks her own power, and her power is called Quake. When she's under some stress or anything like that, she creates an earthquake, right? And typically they'll be like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but why do you care? Well, there was this guy that liked Yu's sister, and he basically also had a girl that liked him, but he didn't like her back, and she became like a yandere, basically became crazy and tried to stab the sister, causing her power to activate, and basically having the kind of school collapse, and this ends up killing her. The main character goes through the 7 stages of grief. I believe it's 7, and this is like really, I think it's the most accurate and most realistic kind of form that I've seen in anime. He breaks down. He kind of he goes through denial, he goes through anger, acceptance, and all those kind of steps right in between. I don't know all of them off by heart, but you know what I mean. He first becomes a shut-in, and they try to use the girl from the beginning where he tried to make her fall in love with, try to get him out, but it doesn't work. He ends up running away, and he just lives the life. He just starts living his life by day, not really improving and doing everything in a cycle, and not improving until one day he gets into a fight with, some thugs and threatens to kill them. Using his power, it's very easy for that to work. And yeah, because he gets into this kind of life of crime, he ends up addicted to, drugs. I believe it was cocaine. I'm not sure. Until one day, the student council president actually comes and stops him, because she also has a power. Everyone in this, every kid, or everyone on screen you can see has a sort of power that also has a drawback. Her power is that she's able to become invisible to one person, and she's basically been following him and seeing what happened. So this is the scene where I very much appreciate the series as a whole, where he actually comes back to her place, and she basically gives him an ultimatum saying that if I could make all you have to do is just eat something other than what he's been eating, which is kind of junk food, and she'll leave him alone. And what she makes him is omelet rice, right? So typically this wouldn't really matter, but the thing is that this is actually the secret recipe omelet rice that his sister used to make. And his sister used to make this all the time for him, because as a kid, this was actually his favorite food. And since his parents no longer are with him, she makes it all the time to keep him happy, even though he doesn't really like it, but he still appreciates the sentiment anyways. Because he tastes this nostalgic flavor, he ends up crying and starts eating it faster and faster. And this actually brings him back, and this actually makes him accept the death of his sister, which is why I really much like this scene. It's one of the more, wholesome. I don't know how to explain it really, but it's a very emotional scene that I would recommend, watching it. So yeah, that's really my favorite part of the series. And after that, it kind of goes from 0 to 100, talking about how his brother was the one who created it, and he has a secret long lost brother, and his brother's power is that he's able to go back in time. Yeah, I know it's a big leap in kind of power, but yeah, his thing is that every time he goes back in time, he loses some of his eyesight, and eventually he becomes blind. And it turns out the main character, Yu, his power is not to take over people, but actually to steal other people's abilities. So, the kind of taking over people's bodies is kind of a side effect to, or a side benefit to his main power, and he uses his power to go back in time. He steals his brother's ability. Well, not steals, his brother gives him his ability, and he goes back in time to go and save his sister, which he does. And let's skip ahead a few bit because let's just get to the ending. So after he, saves everyone, right, and gets to the kind of ending, he actually tells the president that he has feelings for her. She's like, oh really, why? And he says that in an alternate timeline she really helped him out, and the reason why he falls in love with her makes sense, right? Someone to comfort you when you have a loss, if you lose like a loved one, makes sense, right? But she doesn't really reciprocate his feelings, and she gives him a kind of like a deal, right? Or the character comes up with the idea of, if he were to take everyone's abilities, would she love him afterwards? Because his plan is to basically make it where none of the kids are in danger of getting exploited from these groups by taking their powers, so they won't be targeted by these certain groups. So yeah, and she basically agrees to this, and he plans on going to America to kind of finish the job and basically take everyone's powers that are there so that they're no longer a target. So it ends with him taking the powers of all of the student council, including one character with the kind of blonde hair that you see on screen. I'm sorry, I don't remember all the names. It's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, her power is that she was able to have the spirit of her dead sister in her that could like talk to her and stuff like that, or she could take over her body and communicate, and she basically gave that up for him. And yeah, so it ends with him trying to go to America. So with all this being said, would I want a second season? Yeah, I would definitely want a second season to see how this character interacts in America and things like that, right? There would be an entire new crew and things like that, right? The student council would not be there, and I'm not sure if his sister went with him or not. And yeah, the main problem and why I don't think it's gonna get a second season. Oh yeah, there was an OVA, but I don't think it's gonna get a second season because it doesn't promote anything. And if you don't know, anime is run by money. The more money a project can make, the more likely it's gonna get a second season or continuing content. Would I like to see a movie? I think that'd be possible. Would it be enough to kickstart a new season? Maybe. It really is hard to tell. There was an OVA that came out last year in spring, but that's kind of it. The anime came out in 2015, and we haven't really heard anything since. There is a lot of websites that say that it might happen to this, or happen on this day or that day, but it's most likely not gonna get it. Though, do I think it deserves it? Yes, I definitely think that that Charlotte actually deserves a second season. So this is going to be a positive review. And with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video.